All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, CNN recently ran an utterly embarrassing piece comparing Mayor Pete to an ascendant young political rock star, Barack Obama. So here was the evidence cited in that package. Quote, both men represent a fresh face and are calling for change. Now let me let you in on how these pieces are actually put together. Basically, the reporter and the producer decide whatever angle they're looking for, and then they find someone who's willing to parrot that angle that they've devised back to them. Just watch and learn.
It's too soon to know if Pete Buttigieg will follow the rise of Barack Obama, but he's turning some of the same heads in Iowa, like Terry and John Hale.
So does he remind you of Senator Obama?
Absolutely. It's the intelligence, it's that cool composure, it's the ability to be presidential.
He is catching on. The more people that see him, the more people that support him.
All right, this isn't analysis. It's CNN acting as a Pete super PAC, propping up a candidate who has limited appeal. Obviously, they were relentlessly mocked for it, and rightfully so. Friend of the show, Michael Brooks, called it so embarrassing, and Ryan Quixote said, ha, 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 ha. Now, in fairness, the Pete is a real contender narrative looks kind of plausible if you don't look past the overwhelmingly white states of Iowa and New Hampshire, where, as we were informed also by CNN, Pete sits in fourth, but a strong fourth. But here's the thing. The other states get to vote too, and not all of them are super white. You see, there's this tiny glaring problem with the Pete is Obama narrative. Black people actually liked Obama. The same cannot be said for poor Pete, who is polling at 3% with both African Americans and Latinos in the latest YouGov Economist poll. And just so you know that I'm not cherry picking here, 3% is actually the strongest performance that I've seen Pete have with this group. By the way, it really bothers me how this just gets casually chalked up to homophobia as if all black and brown people are monolithically anti-gay and everyone else is evolved and perfect. Please. There are many reasons to find Pete's boring yet condescending technocratic approach uninspiring. There's also a lot not to like about his tenure as mayor of South Bend. Just ask the black residents who did not vote for his reelect. Apparently, though, Pete has fully bought the media and billionaire hype surrounding his campaign, not to mention the whites-only view of the primary. Here he is with John Heilman predicting the race will come down to him and Elizabeth Warren.
I think this is getting to be a two-way. It's early to say it. I'm not saying it is a two-way, but I think...
But you see that. You see it's coming into focus, you and Warren.
Yeah, and certainly a world where we're getting somewhere is that world, where it's coming down to the two of us. Obviously, there's a lot of candidates and a lot of things can happen, but I think that as that happens, the contrasts become clear. Look, the contrasts are real. They're substantive, respectful policy contrasts, but they're real.
Now, given that you are scholars here at Rising Academy, I know you will instantly see the flaws in this hilarious analysis, but let's dig into them anyway, shall we? The media and the Buttigieg camp believe that because he's a centrist and Biden's a centrist, they appeal to the same group of voters. This, though, is not how voters actually think about things at all. Biden's strongest support is with older African Americans, a demographic group with which Pete is polling at literal 0%. You know who does have a coalition that looks a bit like Pete's, though, to the extent anyway that you can call Miracle Whip plus Mayo a coalition? Elizabeth Warren. Now, I want to be fair to Warren. Black and brown voters do not seem to be allergic to her in the same way they are to Pete. But her strongest support is definitely from a similar affluent white people demographic. In fact, her rise in the polls has come from consolidating the support of the professional managerial class as Beto and then Kamala and Pete slipped. This becomes quite clear if you look at second choice numbers. In CNN's New Hampshire poll, Warren voters' second choice is Bernie Sanders, but next in line right after him is Pete Buttigieg. Now, for Pete voters, their top second choice pick is Elizabeth Warren. We can also take a look at what's happened post-debate as Buttigieg has climbed up a few points both in Iowa and New Hampshire and with white people nationally. Warren's momentum has slowed, and as I reported last week, even seems to have reversed a bit. Nate Silver notes that post-October 15, Biden has led 10 polls and Warren only 1. That is a shift from the weeks leading up to the last debate when Pete began his mini-surge. So perhaps the race for affluent white people support has already come down to Pete versus Warren, but, you know, there are a lot of other people who do vote in these primaries. The reality is Pete's rise is likely to be Warren's loss. They are locked in a zero-sum battle here. So deepest condolences to the media, who would love nothing more than to see everyone drop out except the two professional managerial class darlings. But I'm sorry, you're going to have to deal with those pesky working class voters and their preferences. Despite the best efforts of the media and the Clintons, they have not yet been wholly excised from the Democratic Party. Sagar, this piece was too hilarious to resist.
Yeah, it was really funny. It's just, yeah, the way that he sits, he's like, so, does he remind you of Barack Obama?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, absolutely. How many times have they asked that question before they got
found
somebody?
someone. We got one.
I digress. The real thing is, you're right, which is that it's a total misreading of the demographics. It was the same thing that happened in the Republican Party in the 2016 election, is they would be like, oh, well, all my friends who are Republicans say that they don't like Trump, so he obviously can't win. And it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Maybe go poll some of the people who actually vote in these primaries. It's the same thing. In Iowa, I mean, the reason that Pete Buttigieg is going up is largely because of the complete collapse of Kamala Harris. Right? Is that her white upper middle class demographic has basically stratified between Elizabeth Warren and between Pete Buttigieg. None of those people went to Joe Biden and to Bernie Sanders.
Right.
That's what owes to a lot of his rise.
Well,
it's not some master stratagems.
That and the fact that the media has decided they want to make him a thing. I mean, basically, look, Biden's not doing amazing, and the media does not love Joe Biden. He doesn't appeal to kind of their people, you know. You've had Kamala completely fall off. Beto's dropped all the way out of the race. Yeah. So they need some kind of like sort of centristy person so they can hold on to this idea that that's the type of person that you should nominate. And so ever since this last debate when, you know, Pistol Pete came out swinging against Elizabeth Warren, they've wanted to have this battle. But the fact of the matter is, in no world does this primary come down to Elizabeth Warren versus Pete Buttigieg. It's just like complete insanity.
Right, exactly, zero. It's like the state of South Carolina and Nevada just doesn't exist. It's like, go take a look at his polls. Like Super Tuesday. Do I need to educate people on like where those states are? It's crazy. And it's so annoying just to watch like these media narratives just get pumped out day after day after day, because it's a disservice to the people who actually watch it, which is, you're not going to watch at least this show and maybe like, oh, well, this is exactly what's going to happen. I'll be like, no, like there's empirical cases to be made for a lot of the things that we talk about here. And in here, it's a gaslighting because it's not based in truth and reality.
No, it's based on what they want to be reality and finding, you know, a few voters who are willing to just kind of go along with it. It's just, it's absurd. Anyway, there you go.
Next on Rising, the highly contested Kentucky governor's race has a lot of people wondering if a so-called Trump bump will actually help the Republican incumbent net another win at the polls tomorrow, especially since President Trump will be campaigning for Governor Matt Bevin today.
I was on the ground in the Bluegrass State. You all know I love it there this weekend, and had the chance to talk to local Democrats about why they're backing gubernatorial candidate Andy Beshear. I asked if a Trump visit matters in a red state that likes Trump as much as Kentucky does, but seems to very much dislike their Republican incumbent. Ryan will report when Rising continues.